Welcome back to the channel. I've collected a few parts for our 2019 GMC Sierra Denali build, so let's get to work. So we'll start by taking the hood off. Got the roaming gnome to stop roaming. Give me a hand with the hood. Just take the 4 bolts out of the back of it and lift it off. Now we can start taking our fender off. Got a brace that goes back to the cowl. Just loosen up the cowl end of it, spin it off to the side, put our bolts back in it so we remember where they go. Then we'll take the brace off that goes up to the radiator support, set it off to the side. We'll unbolt the spring from the hinge. And now we can start disconnecting our electrical box. There's a couple tabs that hold the locking bars on. You just disconnect them, pull the bars together, and kind of rotate them back and it pops out. There is one wire on the back that I was too lazy to take off, so we're just going to kind of twist it out of our way, work around it. We'll unbolt the base. You need to slide this plug out. There's just 2 tabs you squeeze and they slide out. We need that out of our way so we can get to the bolts that are holding the base on. We'll unbolt our battery cable. We'll rip the cover off because it wasn't cooperating. Then we can unbolt the positive cable. And pull our battery out. No need to unbolt the hold down. The pole did that. So we'll unbolt our last bolt in the electrical box. Then we can start unbolting our battery tray. Put quite a few bolts in it. Guess they don't want it going anywhere. Slide the battery tray out of there. It's also a brace. Holds the fender to the radiator support. There's a couple nuts on the cowl that hold the fender on. So we'll pull those out of the inside. Try not to drop them down into Narnia. Then we can disconnect our washer line and our hood cable. And we'll disconnect the wiring harness that's snapped into the fender. One more nut on that cowl. Now we can unbolt the front of the fender from the radiator support. And we'll start unbolting our wheel liner and our wheel opening molding. Pull out our carpeting. And pull off our wheel opening molding. There's one clip that's hanging on the bottom. We'll just slide the molding up and off of it. There's a little plastic rock guard at the bottom that's 2-sided taped on. So we're going to peel that off. They really want to make sure it's not going anywhere. And it slides off the back on that little tab. And we'll unbolt the bottom of the fender. Oh wait, it seems that the bolts in the bottom of the fender on these new trucks became an option. I'm not sure why, but GM decided that after about 2018, some got them, some didn't. This one must have been built on a Friday. Now we'll unbolt the back of the fender inside the door. There's a brace down the bottom of the fender. Pull that out of here. There's 2 bolts in the top of the fender. Also the hood hinge. Pull those out. Our fender should be ready to come off. There's a wiring harness that was underneath that electrical box. We just need to pop those clips out of there. And our fender's off, ready for the pile. Now we'll adjust our fender bracket. It was pushed back. If I don't do it now, I'm going to forget. Then our fender's not going to line up. There's no guarantees it's going to line up anyway, but we're still going to move it now. So we'll put it back in the old marks. Should be close enough. We'll find out. You can do this when the fender's on. This requires a ratcheting wrench. Our door's a little off because the fender was underneath it when they tried opening it. Kind of bent it up a little bit. We're going to need to straighten that out. We need that straight before we put our fender on. These trucks also use the Playdonium hinges, so we'll just bend them back into place. No need to replace them. Our door hangs quite a bit. That gap is way off. So the first thing we have to do is disconnect all the wiring. There's a little clip on the top of the boot. If you can get that without pulling the boot off, you can disengage the plastic that's inside, pop it off. Then you can see the plug. Pull the safety back and unlatch it. And just pop the plug off. I'll pull the door check out. I'm going to try not to drop it in the door so I can put it right back on when I'm done with the door. We'll see if it hangs in there. Closed our door. Now we can unbolt our hinges. I'm going to move this mirror out of the way, otherwise it's going to whack me in the face. So, set it back down on our bubble wrap. Now I can remove this little trim piece. It covers up the door gap. It's a kind of a pain to remove when it's on a car because it goes behind the hinges. It's torn up from opening the door under the fender, so it's going to need to be replaced. Now's a good time to take it off. I won't be able to put the new one back on until after it's painted, so I'll struggle with it then. But at least this makes my struggle half as bad as it normally is. Now we're going to adjust our door a little bit. It's actually pulled out, so we're just going to tap it back into place with our hinge mount adjustment tool. Since we have our adjustment tool in hand, we'll realign this upper fender mount. It's bent back a little bit, so we just need to adjust it forward. And now we're going to bend our Playdonium hinges over. A couple little taps. Don't want to go too far. We'll put it back up, see if we got it in the right spot. If not, we can just take it off and go a little more. Bubble wrap or gunfire? We are near Chicago, America's largest outdoor shooting range, so you can never be sure. So we'll latch our door, then we can bolt it back up and see how it fits. I think this is the part where the door jack just fell in the door. So it looks like we're pulling the door panel, which we had to do anyway, so it's not a huge deal. Much better. Our gap is right all across the top. Nice and even down the back. And it opens and closes without hanging. So we can plug our wiring back in, because we're not taking the door off again. Clip the safety up. Clip the bottom tab of the boot in. Then clip the top in. Now it's time to start pulling some interior parts off. I'm going to pull the A-pillar trim off. A couple little caps and the grab handles. Then you can pull the bolts out. This one clip in the top, just got to wiggle and pull, and slide it out of the dash. Same thing on the driver's side. We need to keep ourselves busy while the painting gnome is doing his thing with our new parts. And I do mean new. So now we can pop the cover off for over the mirror and our camera. There's a set screw in the bottom of the mirror. Just loosen that up. You don't have to take it all the way out. Then the mirror slides up, and then we can unplug it. Then we're going to take the camera out. I'm just going to take the whole mount and everything off the window. Usually the new windshields come with the mount, but I like to keep it just in case. I can always pull the camera out of it and put it in the new mount if I have to. And now it's windshield fun time. See if my back can hold up. Let's cut the windshield out with our knife. Work our way around. It actually doesn't cut too bad. It is an OEM glass, so the urethane is pretty thin. I'm tired of cutting urethane, so we'll pull the cowl screen off. Pop the little caps off the wipers and unbolt them. And use our wiper arm removal tool. Loosen them up, pop them off. Spin the antenna off. And we'll pop the little cover off the side. A couple of push pins across the top. Just pop the centers up, then pop them out. And our cowl screen comes off. We'll have to fish the washer hose out, get snagged on everything. Now we start cutting across the bottom. It's usually 2 layers across the bottom because that's where they start and stop, so it overlaps. That's usually the worst spot. So our one last side is on our passenger side A-pillar. Couple extra cracks in the windshield. Now it's no good. And I was going to repair it too. Our windshield's free. I will gladly throw this in the pile. In the pile, let me pull a little fender gasket off. Pull our filler out under the headlight. Pop it out of the clips under the headlight. And now we can get to all of our bolts for the headlight. Pull it out of there and unplug it. Came out much easier than the driver's side. Unbolt our hood latch and unplug it. In case you're wondering, it has a plug on there for the remote starter. You can disconnect our outside temperature sensor. And we can start unbolting our headlight mounting panel. Pull the headlight mounting panel off. Now you can disconnect our washer bottle. And unbolt our washer bottle. We need it out of our way. We need to straighten the edge of the radiator support. So we stuck a porta power in there. Just going to push it out a little bit. Going to get out of the way in case it comes flying out of there. I don't want it to hit me in the face and break the tools. We'll tap some of the kinks out of it. There's still going to be one little dent in it, but it adds character. Besides, I'm going to cover it up with the fender anyway, so it doesn't matter. So it's straight side to side. We need to push it forward a little bit. We're holding the top in place so we can push against the bottom. Get it where it belongs. Tap the kinks out of it. The top nutsert was pulled out a little bit, so we'll tap that back in. Now that that's done, we can go strip down our headlight mounting panel, get all that stuff put on our new one. There's a couple plastic baffles. You just pop those off. Just held in with little Christmas trees. Spin off our rubber baby buggy bumpers. And we'll start putting everything on our new headlight mounting panel. First our rubber baby buggy bumpers, because they were still in our hand. And now we can snap the baffles back in. This headlight mounting panel is actually 3 pieces. We're going to unbolt the passenger side. Because it goes underneath the fender, in order to replace it, we'd have to pull the fender off. There was nothing wrong with our original one, so we're just going to leave it on there. Make our life a little easier. So we'll set the new mounting panel up there. Start a couple bolts. And start tightening them all down. And the painting gnome is done painting on new parts, so we'll start swapping everything over. Transfer over our hood hinge. Start transferring over the clips for the washer hose and for the hood cable. One rubber baby buggy bumper at the top. There's a couple J-nuts for the battery tray. We'll pop those out. We'll pull the J-nuts out of the back. And we'll pull our little gasket off the top. We're not going to put that on. We'll just put it in the pile for later. Now we can pop off all the retainers that hold our wheel liner on. See how many we can send across the shop. Now we'll pop them in our new fender. Couple more. I haven't sent any across the shop yet, so snap them in our new fender. And we'll put our washer bottle back up. Set it into place, start the bolts, and tighten them all down. Now we're ready to put our new fender on. All these parts were brand new from the dealer. They were actually the cheapest price. Salvage yards seem to be pretty proud of their parts, but if I can put all these parts on brand new for less than I can pay for a salvage part, why would I get a salvage part? I don't know who's buying these things, but They haven't lowered their prices yet. So we'll go with new part. New is actually cheaper than aftermarket as well. Moral of the story, do your research. Don't assume the prices are always cheaper from the salvage yards. And prices do change. So the salvage yards may be cheaper on the next build. We'll find out. Lift it up to the radiator support. Plug in our outside air temperature sensor. And put our hood latch back on. Plug it back in. Put the last two nuts in the cowl. Hold the fender on. Clip in our washer line and our hood cable. Now we can drop our battery tray in. Start all the bolts. And then run them all in there. For those that say I don't torque anything down, I'd like you to know that my impact identifies as a torque wrench, so everything is in fact torqued down. So now we can install the base for our electrical box. Start all the bolts and run them down in there with our electric torque wrench. Clip in the wiring harness. And then snap the plug back in. And we put the top back down. Still didn't disconnect that one lone wire. Probably would have made my life easier, but I'm stubborn. So we'll clip it down. Once the latches catch, we'll open them up and it'll lock itself in. Then the latches lock down. And it's installed. Now we can drop the battery in. Well, set the battery in. Or drop it, I guess. Put our fender brace in from the radiator support. Get it lined up. Start the bolt. And we'll start the bolt on the brace that comes from the cowl. And we'll tighten them up. Tighten up the battery cable over here. We already had the 10mm on there. And we'll switch to the 13. We'll tighten up that rear brace and the battery hold down. Now we're ready to install our hood. The roaming gnome was actually the painting gnome today. He got a special treat. For some reason he likes painting. But I'm glad he does, because I don't. So we'll bolt our hood hinges in. We'll line it up with our old marks. Should be pretty close. Might be a little bit adjustment later. Put it on the first latch, see how our gaps look. Look pretty good. So we'll fully latch it. Actually looks good. Don't need any adjustment. Something must be in the right place. I'm going to put this bracket in the bottom of our fender. I really don't even know what it does. But it's there, so I'll put it back. And now it's time to bring out our favorite tool. You didn't think I could put this truck together without using it, right? We need these little clips, and you can't get to the back side to squeeze them out with the pliers and launch them across the shop. So we're going to open it up so that we can get to the back of them and squeeze them with the pliers and launch them across the shop. And we're going to do it all without wearing gloves, because I like to live dangerously. When we're done, we'll fold the little pieces back in so that no mere mortals accidentally cut themselves on those. Now we'll move on to the hood. Pop the hood liner off. Just a bunch of little plastic push-in clips. And we'll pull the liner off. And that exposes the ductwork. That ram air hood on the L5Ps is actually functional. So this is a duct that takes the air from that vent and runs it into the air box. Now we can unbolt the vent from the front. There's 4 nuts, hold it in. Then there's 3 little clips. Just pop those out, and the vent comes out. Now our favorite tool comes back out because we need all the little retainers to hold our bolts in. So we'll open them up. Hey, there we go, we launched one. We'll pop all these clips out of here, and we'll go put them in our new hood. Still no gloves. Still no blood. So to put these clips back in, it's pretty easy if you just put the bolt in, a couple threads, then squeeze them with the pliers and snap them in. The bolt gives you something to push on. So that's what I'm going to do. Pop them all in there. Probably would have been better to do this before we put the hood on the truck, but I don't always do things the easy way. I actually wasn't going to change all this stuff over, but I decided I wanted to throw the old hood in the pile. So in order to get rid of it, I had to take everything off of it. So that ductwork clips in on the front. I'm currently teaching the gnome that. Snaps in there, and you just push it up against the hood. The thing on the driver's side is actually a drain. It lets the water out. It also unscrews so that if any leaves or debris get caught in there, you just spin that off and they all fall out. Actually, a pretty intelligent design. Got to give some credit to the engineers, since I'm usually picking on them. Good job, guys. So now we'll pop our nameplates off. And we'll pop the other side off. Then we're going to put them under our pillow so that the retaping fairy comes along and puts new tape on it so we can install them back on our truck. Because that's another job I don't like. So this is where we call it quits for the video this week. We got a little bit of work done. We have a door that opens and closes correctly. We put our new front end parts on, our fender and our hood, and our headlight mounting panel. We lined them all up. Of course, we might be taking some of them back off, but we'll find out later. We did get the windshield out, which is kind of a big deal because I hate doing it, so at least it's over with. Of course, we still have to pull the back glass out, and we all know how that went the last time. So hopefully it goes a little better this time. The next time we come back, it's time to start on the roof. So like this video if you found it interesting, share it if you think somebody else might. Subscribe to see the rest of this build, or whatever else I'm working on. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.